Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be taking you guys through my maintenance schedules on my Bambulab P1Ss. I'm not going to worry too much about the A1 minis. I'll make a video on those later, but I don't use them nearly as much, so they're not even close to most of their maintenance schedules that I would follow. But I will go through each printer. I just looked at the print hours, so on my P1P, my original printer, it has 2,837 hours. My newest one, which is Spooky, has 458 hours, my bad. And then my second oldest, Shadow, right there, has 1,958 hours. So collectively, there's a little over 5,000 hours worth of printing there. So I'll explain what I do. So typically, when a printer hits 1,000 hours is when I do my first original full service check, and I actually just had pumpkin finish, so I can go show you what I look for. It's a little different on pumpkin because it was a P1P upgraded to a P1S, so I check a little bit more, but I'll walk you over there and we will look at things on pumpkin that I'm going to check out, and then I'll explain why I look for everything, so that way you guys have a visual representation while I'm going through it. So let's get you set up over there, and then I'll talk through what I see. I'll be right back. All right, so here I am at Pumpkin. I'm gonna see if I can get a little bit better light for you guys. I'm gonna open this curtain up and try and get some more light inside of this. All right, so now there's a decent amount of light inside of there. So what I'm looking for, and this is at 3,000 hours, and this is actually just a normal 1,000 hour. So I'm looking for debris down in the bottom of the printer. So if I bring you back and I look down there, I'm looking for debris down here. I'm gonna clean that out. That's every day. That's not just at 3,000 hours. Remember to keep that clean. I've just been printing a lot, so it's been building up. We have these Z-axis screws. There's obviously 3 of them, one in the back. At every 1,000 hours, I usually clean these off, and that's at 1,000 hours. I clean these off and re-lube them, and about every 500 hours or so, I'll actually clean the screws or the linear rails right behind that, which is this piece right here that you see my finger at on the side. There's a rail behind that. I usually lube that with 3-in-1 oil. And then I'll pull this a little bit closer. I'll typically check these rods and wipe them off with IPA if they look dirty, so don't do what I'm about to do, but I'm gonna clean mine anyways. I wiped it and nothing came off on my fingers. That tells me the rails are clean. I don't need to worry about them. I'll push on these belts and feel for tension. They should feel equal, and if they feel equal, I don't have any worries. This nozzle right here looks a little bit beat up, but it has been on here for a little over 1,000 hours. And typically every 1,000 hours I would just replace them, but this one's still going strong. So I don't see a need to replace this. And I'm gonna give it a little close-up inspection here. Normally you don't wanna let this dangle, but I'm gonna get a little close and personal here. Nozzle looks a little worn, but there's no issues that I would be concerned with right now. There's a crack on the side of my housing over here, which I don't even know if I could show you that. Let's see if I can get you guys a little show of the crack that's developed after this many hours. It's right there, that little crack right there. So I'm not too concerned about that. It looks fine to me. Extruder gear on the side here looks fine. This nozzle cutter isn't sticking. Everything looks good. This carbon filter probably needs to be replaced. Carbon doesn't last all that long, so I just have activated carbon pellets in here. I'm just gonna leave it in there right now because I'm not printing anything specific and there's no point to waste more. I'm also gonna check these back here, make sure there's no dust and debris buildup on the spindles themselves of the motors. These are the steppers. This one has a little piece of plastic in there. Nope, it's good. Okay, so that one's good there. I'm also checking my fans to make sure there's nothing in them. I noticed on this fan right here, on the inside, there's actually some dust and debris built up in there, so I'm gonna take that out with some tweezers, or maybe I can just Nope, that didn't work. I'll have to get some tweezers to get that out. I don't have any on me currently. And then the last thing I'm checking, and you guys are going to be surprised at how little maintenance this actually is. I'm checking my belt idlers and stuff like that, making sure there's just really nothing in there. Normally you could check the belts if you wanted to. All these belts look relatively clean and good. They're not leaving any debris on my fingers. This nozzle wiper back here does need to be replaced, but the issues I've been seeing are the same issues that I have on new ones, so I'm not worried about it. This fan down here is sucking in a lot of dust, and that's the auxiliary cooling fan that you guys actually can't see. So that's this guy right here, the auxiliary cooling fan. And it looks fine. I'll probably blow it out, but I'm not too worried about it. And then the very last thing I actually check is to make sure in here that all of the electrical connections are seated properly, and they are. Obviously you should do this with the printer off. Mine's on right now, just for a little extra light. I would not recommend doing that. If you want to clean these, I will make a video on how to clean these properly, but realistically there's not a ton of maintenance that needs to be done on these. One check you can do for your nozzle, and maybe I could actually force this right now and show you. So let's change the nozzle. Let's go up to, I'm gonna put it up to 210 degrees and tell it to heat up. And then let's go down to feeding. Let's load a piece of filament. So right there, you can see, I'm gonna try and line you guys up and zoom you in on that piece right there specifically. So give me a second here. Maybe even 5x it. Okay, so there's the nozzle right there. You can see that. And what we're gonna wait for is it to do its thing. But you see how it's purging filament and the filament's coming straight out of it? And let's see if I can center you guys even a little bit better there. So you see how the filament is coming out straight in front of it, and it's not going side to side. If it was curling side to side, that would actually tell you your nozzle's bent or that your airflow is not running. So with it coming out just like that, that tells me my nozzle's not bent and my fans are working properly and there's no issues. So I'm not gonna worry about it. If it was curling at all, then I would change it, because that means my nozzle's bent. But this printer hasn't had that issue, so it's not a big deal. So I'm gonna get you back out to one time. So just to recap, checking Z-axis screws, I would usually clean these and lube these every 1,000 hours. I actually did them about 2,000 hours now because I moved and all that fun stuff. I kind of forgot to do it. So I would clean those. I'm gonna lubricate that back linear rod. There's one on each side. I don't think there's one in the back. There isn't. That's the main Z screw in the back. I would clean off the Z screws. I would lube them again. I use 3-in-1 oil to lube those back linear rails and these top linear rails. Check belt tension by just pushing on them with your finger. They should all feel equal. If they're not, there's a problem. I'm gonna tell my printer to stop being hot now. Oh, there's a firmware update. Okay. So that's that. And then the very last thing that I check is the nozzle, which I kind of showed you guys what to look for when you're purging filament. And that actually goes for any 3D printer. That is not just a P1S or P1P. That nozzle check can be used anywhere. And then of course you can check your bed screws and stuff like that. Make sure nothing's loose. It's kind of hard because they're all Loctited in. And if you turn them, you could loosen them and then you'd have to tighten them and worry about that. You're looking for dust in the fans. You're looking for just about anything that moves in its area. But other than that, everything looks good there. So I'm gonna get back over to the computer and finish this video off. All right, so hopefully I'm in frame, I can't see it. So those are my general checks on my P1Ps and P1Ss. It's really the same. It's really just checking to make sure your linear rails, which are the smooth rods going up and down and basically horizontally and vertically, they don't have any threading on them. Making sure those are dust-free and debris-free, making sure they're lubed. They get dry about every 1,000 hours is what I've noticed. And I use little 3-in-1 oil. I'll go grab the bottle real quick that I use for this. This is the oil I use. Whether or not it's recommended, I don't know, but this is what I used in the nuclear industry. So I've been using it ever since, and I haven't had any issues. And then I'm using a soft bristle brush, which I just don't have. Let me check, make sure I don't have one. Well, I've used this before. I don't recommend using these unless you have a really strong bristle toothbrush, but a toothbrush I've used before. As you can see, it's all grody. And then I re-lube it with the stuff Bambulab supplies for lubing those. I think it's a little white silicone lubricant, I'm pretty sure. And then I'm checking for debris on the fans, dust on the fans, blow everything out, give it a nice clean sweep. And then I'll check the nozzle by loading filament. Typically, I don't do that because I don't have to. You can tell if a print is not doing well based on how the nozzle performs. You'll get bubbling or slight layer line adhesion. You'll hear grinding when you're printing. It'll give you some sort of indication before you do that check that, hey, your nozzle's bad. Or it could just be laying down terrible layers. It's a possibility too. Belt tension is something that you can easily check by just pushing on the belts when the printer's not at a spot of rest. So I usually move it to the very center of the plate, and then I push on the belts and see if everything feels the same, and it should all feel the same. And then the last part that I really check for on the belts is just to make sure there's no wear and tear and that the belt idlers in the back are where they're supposed to be, which if your belts are tensioned, then your idlers are fine. Other than that though, there's not a whole lot of maintenance you need to do on these printers. And I know there's some videos out there that tell people they need to do all this different stuff and you need to replace parts at this point. The less you replace, the less you rip apart, the better on machines like these that are really not designed for it. So just keep that in mind. Always double or triple check something before you decide, yes, that is what I'm gonna do, because there could be multiple other ways of doing that without ripping it apart. And just most of the time, just remember to keep your printer off when you're doing maintenance on it. It's just better for the electrical components, just in case you do decide to unplug something or possibly plug something into it and you could short it out and you don't want to do that. For maintenance, I do never open up the back of the printer for any reason. There's no reason to, realistically, unless you have like a P1S or an X1 carbon and you want to clean out the fan on the very back that blows air out. But realistically, because it's going out after a filter, you shouldn't need to do all that much maintenance to it besides replacing the filter media. The fan on the back should not get that dusty because it's not an intake fan, it's an outtake fan. But there could still be dust in it, but not nearly as bad as the ones that are recirculating the air inside the printer. And then other than that, you just need to check your PTFE tubes, make sure they're not worn or damaged. Mine aren't because they're all fresh replaced. When I moved, I replaced them all when I got here, so that way I didn't have to do it anytime soon. Plus I have a whole bunch of it. But realistically, there isn't a ton to do. Don't overdo it. Keep it simple. If you have any questions or anything like that, I do have I think it's a Discord server. Yeah, I have a Discord server for Patreon members, and there's a free tier of Patreon if you guys want to go on there and ask questions for whatever reason. I can link it down in the description, where you can interact with me and ask me questions. If you ever have questions about any 3D printers, not just Bambulab P1Ss or X1 carbons or whatever it is, I will more than happily answer them to help people feel more confident about what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, this channel is really to introduce people to the hobby and help them grow in the hobby so that you feel confident to go out and do the job yourself, so you don't have to rely on other people. But anyways, I'm gonna end it there. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'll link my Patreon down in the description, and I'm gonna open up a Discord too. There is one link to Patreon. I just gotta remember how to do all that. It's been a while. So that way, if you guys do want to get in contact with me and ask some questions, you're more than likely. You can also leave them in the comments here and I'll get back to them. I answer just about every comment so far. But yeah, I'm gonna end it there. Again, thanks for watching. Check out the next video where I show you guys how to slice, find, print, settings, differences in the next video. I'm looking at the goats out the window. If you're curious, they're eating the fence, kind of, for some reason. But anyways, peace. Thanks for watching.